A young male actor with a rucksack and cowboy hat nervously hitchhikes by the side of the highway.
Turning to White is essentially my story. It's where my story begins. I was a young man travelling around Australia with my girlfriend.
Photos of a young Tony travelling.
We were hitchhiking from Adelaide to Perth, and unfortunately I got left at Cockabiddy Roadhouse, which was abandoned, and it took me 2 or 3 days to actually escape. And that's what this film's about, because it's the first time I truly had to come to terms with being blind.
The young actor struggles against the force of a truck. Photos of Tony as a child.
I was that bullied fat kid with Coke bottle glasses. At the age of 16, my eyes went down to about 3% vision.
Then a teenager.
And it stayed like that until my mid-30s.
And in his mid-20s. Tony talks to camera.
I had given up on my dream of being a filmmaker years ago when my eyes went from 3% to 1% to nothing.
Archive footage of Tony in East Timor.
I was in the middle of East Timor making a film, and I suddenly started falling over things. I couldn't see. Almost overnight, I was falling down drain pipes. I walked into a buffalo the size of a car. And that really hit me hard. It damaged me. And I gave up. I came back, I finished the film, but essentially I gave up.
Fade to black screen.
I didn't leave my house for 15 years.
Tony with guide dog Paddington and trainer walking through mall.
Then I was talked into getting a dog. And the moment I did, my world just opened up. And I started going places. And all of a sudden, I just went, I need to make a film.
Tony and Paddington walk to an old Fremantle cottage and knock on the door.
On the stairs. The process of being a blind filmmaker is completely different. I have to come up with new and interesting ways of doing it. And of course, Lincoln just took this on as a pretty impressive challenge, and so we got stuck into it.
To begin with, we're going to be shooting a proof of concept. So we've chosen one scene, which is the scene where his girlfriend has left and he's finding his way down the highway, trying to flag down a passing ride.
Lincoln and Tony on a couch watching The Handmaid's Tale.
So they're sitting against a wall, 4 women dressed in red, while off to the far left, these men are being hung. It's interesting working with Tony because he still has a strong visual memory. I can talk about hot pinks and chocolate browns and he knows what I'm on about. And with his history in filmmaking, he has this great film language, so we can discuss angles and shot sizes, etc. And we're on the same page. And the camera's tracking across and it's really getting underneath that bonnet. So it's almost like you're underneath both of their bonnets.
The style of this film, it's been in my head for a very long time. I wanted a very small space around the character Tony that was in focus at all times, and outside the bubble was blurred, was out of focus, and it was a way of describing Tony's world.
And she is in like crystal clear focus, really, really sharp focus. And this side here is just completely blurred out. So they must be on f, 2.8 or lower.
Lincoln uses Tony's hands to describe the composition of the shot.
Tails in.
Tony and Paddington climb into Lincoln's
Limbs
car.
and tails.
Tony puts his hat on Paddington to adjust his seatbelt.
I didn't actually necessarily need this proof of concept film to look exactly like Cockabiddy.
Driving through city.
What I needed it to do was to look isolated, to look desolate, to give the stylistic feel of being in the middle of nowhere and in a dangerous place.
So let's just imagine this is about 300 metres. It starts to turn and keeps going in that direction.
Using a magnet board to describe Google Maps image.
I'm guessing correct me if I'm wrong, but where you got so disorientated is you heard a noise coming from one distance.
Yes.
From this direction. And all of a sudden it kind of changes direction and it's upon you.
That's right. That's how it felt. It just was, suddenly it was there.
You know, I was like listening for it and I can hear it, you know, gradually increasing, but then suddenly it was just on top of me.
We used tools like Google Earth, Google Maps to actually teleport ourselves into that environment and looked around. It was amazing. So I could talk to Tony about exactly what the environment looked like. You've got a bunch of shrubs that mustn't be much bigger than, maybe comes up to your chest.
Wow, this is from seated or standing?
Standing.
In the countryside driving, Paddy's head on Tony's lap.
It's pretty tricky around the Perth area because to get that open space, you're looking at a lot of farmland around the wheat belt, but it doesn't look like an environment that you would
They walk by the highway.
be scared about getting lost in. But a friend suggested that we check out around the Iain area. Okay, this is a big ass Mack truck, and
Wow, you can imagine that.
if you were 2 meters that way,
Yep.
up the shit creek, mate.
That's... It was close in so many ways. It had the same kind of curvy road
They filmed test shots.
that Cocklebiddy had that I didn't even know they had. It also had the same pale limestoney feel. More shrubs than was at Cocklebiddy, but it still gave you a sense of isolation.
Can you feel, so this is the camera,
They use the magnet board.
this is Tony. So what we're going to do now is we're going to track so close like Handmaid's Tale.
Yep.
I'm going to be right up in your grill.
Yep.
And we're going to track along the length of this road, and we're going to walk it up to the
Highway.
highway.
Lincoln films Tony walking towards his camera.
That's it. So with Tony being vision impaired, obviously we had to come up with some unique ways of not only us working together, but for Tony to be able to work with professional film crews.
We have various methods that we want to go and try, at least in the future. But for now, we started with the magnetic storyboarding.
At Lincoln's dining table, they review the test footage.
The other thing was the topography that made it very difficult because it wasn't, the roads had bumps and dips.
Yeah. I mean, it's going
we
to
were
be...
both essentially walking blind.
Yeah.
Tony walks into the camera.
Two blind men.
Two blind men and
Two
a dog,
blind
yeah.
mice.
With each of these, we're able to create a three-dimensional, tactile experience. If I can say, Lincoln, I want to know whether or not that is the correct perspective. Is this camera close enough? Does it have to be pushed further back? Simply because that's an element that I have trouble with, is perspectives.
That's probably where you sort of
Yep.
your wide from showing Tony.
They use a large magnetic board.
Yeah, that's exactly
Tony
right.
there.
That's exactly from straight across the road.
Yeah, and can you feel this other one here? So that's essentially where the camera would be for that close-up, looking down the length of the highway.
Yeah. The other thing I came across as part of my own mobility training as being a blind person around the house was something called a pen friend. And the moment I saw it, I just saw its application to film. Essentially, it's a code reader, it's a scanner.
Tony scans a sticker attached to a magnet.
Shot 1, Cocklebiddy Roadhouse, wide angle. Wrong order, but it'll do.
Shot 1, Cocklebiddy Roadhouse, wide angle.
So this is a really awesome tool. So, I mean, we're hoping to have one of these boards for every single shot. So Tony can go through and just record different messages for each item. So it could be for a person,
Recording messages
for a road,
on multiple boards.
and he can very quickly go through, hover the pen over, and it's going to tell him what he's looking at.
Cocklebiddy Roadhouse.
Awesome.
Good enough.
So now let's go around and just see how quickly we can move between them, because we want speed on a set. So
Yeah.
Garage. Shop. Motel. Big ass road train.
Working with Lincoln is one thing, but he's only one member of a crew. I really needed to have a better understanding of what was going to happen when I have to work with other people.
Yes, it's very interesting that you described it that way, because to me, automatically, it's very difficult to show
In a studio with Dan.
that with a truck of what that feels like, and yet you've just perfectly described it as being tumbled around in the wash.
I've worked with 2D films on a number of films now, and when we approached them to be a part of this project, They really jumped at the opportunity. I think both of those guys really like a challenge.
So I just went to the roadhouse, wandered around, came right back, and it was from there, and we'll be probably filming from about here and just tracking Tony, track.
This is as much about Tony learning how to work with a professional film crew as it is about the film crew learning how to work with Tony and any other vision-impaired filmmakers that come after Tony, which is what, you know, we're hoping for. And I think we've got a great team. We've got a really good team.
Tony and mine would chat in Lincoln's kitchen around a laptop.
Beneath the brim of his Akubra hat, Tony's shadowed eyes constantly scan his surroundings as he walks along a gravel driveway.
As a filmmaker, it's important that I take audio description seriously and integrate it into my film. You made them automatically. You created 3 sentences, and so you put pauses. So you know, have that first line, and then you'll get the crunch of a boot. The moment I wrote a script, I wrote a preliminary audio description for that script.
So when I'm reading that, I'm kind of getting a sense that those things aren't simultaneous, that they are actually kind of happening in like in a particular order.
Quite honestly, I'm rather terrified about the shoot. I've got not just Lincoln
On location with crew.
and the 2Ds, but I'll probably have David, and I'll have extras, and I'll have people around doing this, that and the other, their various jobs.
Tony works with the crew.
And it's going to be a learning thing for me, because this will be the first true
And with actor David.
exercise in the open in an environment that I haven't got total control over.
Crew filmed David walking towards the highway. Lincoln taps Tony's shoulder,
When I'm on set, just a simple act of
then makes a circular motion.
knowing when things are moving, where they're going, when they're stopping, it gives me a sense of the rhythm.
So Tony and I came up with a tap system. 1 tap on Tony's shoulder, meaning that the actor has started moving after we've called action. 2 taps, meaning that the actor might have stopped. This like circular motion that I'll do on Tony's arm, which means like a focus pull, so that to signify that the cameraman has started pulling focus, which is in some of our shots. And we've also got this movement, which means that the camera has started sort of to pivot it around Tony the actor to come from behind him.
He can watch this happening. I can't, but by doing that, I'm watching through him.
I'm going to be wearing a little lapel mic or transmitter that's Bluetooth to Tony's phone that then is like an inner ear monitor.
In this case, Lincoln can be walking off and talking to the camera guys.
Lincoln with crew,
And
Tony listening in.
I'm listening in. And then if it's something of importance, he'll simply say, Tony, is this okay for you? Are you happy with this? And I can simply just either acknowledge, or I'll shake my head, and then we'll stop, and he'll come over and talk to me. Either way, it keeps things a lot smoother, and it keeps me in the loop.
You could be based kind of right here.
I might just move the things here, but I'll do a walkthrough with you now, and then I'll stay out of it. But let's do a walkthrough.
Lincoln can't just sit there with me all the time. He's the co-director, and this might be my concept, this might be my direction and my structure, but when Lincoln's and I are together there, he gets the final say on the vision of that shot, because he's the one with the eyesight.
Shot 7, walk into frame, done.
The crew looks at the shot list.
8 didn't do. Shot 9, hitchhike.
Just hang on, what was shot 8 that we didn't do? For me, this shoot was also
They wrap a sheet around the actor's waist.
remarkable because I got to be involved in a more physical way.
So Tony came up with this idea to use a sheet to tie around the waist of the actor David and use that as like a pulley system to push and pull him in the right direction, to give him some force to sort of struggle against.
I totally got into the tactile experience of being able to feel exactly what Dave's movements were transmitted through the sheet. So I understood much more about this shot. I wasn't reliant entirely upon audio description because I could feel when he was getting it right and when he was getting it wrong.
Tony controls David with a sheet. Lincoln makes dust with a leaf blower.
It's an experiment, And it's a small experiment, but it's an experiment which will lead on to much bigger projects. And we're going to be taking notes. What works? What doesn't work? What's important? And what's not important.
Tony, Lincoln and Dan operate a drone.
Being back again is it's truly amazing, actually, because, you know, when you think you've lost something and you find it again, that is special. That is something that few people get the privilege of having a lost dream returned to you. And I'm not going to stop now that I've got it back. I'm enjoying every minute of it, and I've just got bigger and better films that I want to make.
Tony smiles while working with the crew. Aerial shot of the actor by the highway and the endless bush behind. Entire crew shot. Everyone is smiling. Director Tony Sarre and Lincoln MacKinnon, camera Iain Appleyard, editor Lincoln MacKinnon and Tony Sarre, audio mix and colour grade Lincoln MacKinnon, audio description Jessica Raitt, music No Future Forever by Galloping Foxes, The Drought, Did I Damage You, and Words from Robin to Batman by the Kill Devil Hills. Special thanks to Seeing Eye Dog Paddington. Logos: At Chat, Independent Living Assessment, Perth Festival, Screen West, and Data.